Hi, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. When you bind off and ribbing, very often you want to preserve that stretchy feature of the ribbing, and yet we want the edge to be neat, tidy, and look even. I have found out a way to bind off around the gate pegs and ribbing without transferring all the stitches again. Have a look, it's really pretty easy.
I am binding off the top of a slipper sock. So this ribbing needs to have a very stretchy edge. If it were stockinette, I would just bind off around the gate pegs like this. Pull a yarn behind the gate peg, make a stitch on the next needle. But since I am working with the ribbing too, how am I going to bind off around the gate pegs? Let's try this. Let's pick up the stitch right off the ribber needle and work around the gate peg. Now the yarn's already around the gate peg, so we'll pull the needle forward, back, catch the yarn and make a stitch. The yarn is around the next gate peg. I'm going to push down on the ribber needle to make a little room, lift my stitch off, and chain. Again, push down on the ribber needle so I can get my tool into that stitch, lift the stitch off the needle, make sure the yarn is still around the gate peg, and make my chain stitch. What is so great about going around these gate pegs? The fact is that it creates an evenly spaced chain stitch. I'm moving the camera a little bit so we can continue for a few stitches. And I'm having to work around it, so I'm sorry this is just jiggling a little. I hope that you can see it. Lift it off. Make sure we're around that gate peg, which we are. Do this one normally. And we keep doing that all the way across. Then at the far side, I'll simply break the yarn, pull it through the last stitch, and then in a minute I will be able to show you what the finished edge looks like. If you really needed a super stretchy edge, instead of going around one gate peg, we could back up the yarn so it's wrapping around two. I already tried it with this pattern. It's not necessary to have that much yarn, and the excess does not look very neat at the top. So we want enough, but we don't need more than enough. Okay, I'll show you in a minute what it looks like finished. Okay, I removed all the weights, and now I just have to lift the work off of the gate pegs very gently so as not to catch it. And there's my edge. Of course, when you pull it, it will settle in. You see it ruffles a little bit, but as the top of a slipper, this needs to go around your heel as you stretch to put it on your foot. So we're going to have to live with that in order to get our feet in. Here is the almost finished slipper. There needs to be a seam down the front, and the toe needs to be finished. And also, of course, this ribbing needs to be seamed together. But I'm holding it in the position it will be worn, and you can see how wonderful it is to have that around the gate pegs chain stitch bind off. Nice and even, but it still stretches to let your foot go in and then relaxes back. Looks nice. Here are the finished slippers. They have not been washed yet, but they look very much as they will. The fabric will loft a little bit and shrink a little bit. And I agree that they look funny, but in a minute you'll see how well they fit. Here is the slipper on my foot. This one's actually a size large for me, so I put heavy socks on underneath it to approximate a size larger foot. But you get the idea.